All right, welcome back to Lost for Words with Lori. It is December 12th. It's 11:04 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know it's been a couple of days. You guys know me. Usually topics revolve around toxic cesspool world, but not today. Not today. We are going to tackle something that's been on my mind for the last, month and a half, I guess. More hardcore than most people normally have to think about these things, but we had an update about a week ago, and I gave everybody an idea of what was coming next for the Happy Podcast, because that's what the Lori do. And I had expressed that I wanted to use this platform as a way to kind of help people and talk about the things that I think about. And one of the things that everybody knows since November 1st is that we lost Toby, and I've been dealing with this kind of weird path that most people don't have to deal with, called grief. And I have been talking with a lot of people through this process, and a lot of people don't see that, but about what grieving is. And I go to therapy a lot. Therapy has been kind of a great thing, but a lot of people don't like that. And we've been talking about grieving and the process of grief. And I've met some really neat people who've had to go down that path for a lot of different reasons. And within that, you find interesting things about people and how we cope with grief. And I met this really wonderful young man who has become family to me. And we've been having an ongoing dialogue about the grieving process. And I found a really kindred spirit in somebody who is helping me cope with the understanding of grief and how it's affecting my life, but also how it affects other people and how we learn from each other and the different places that we are in the process of grieving. And we came up with this great concept, and we called it Grieving for Dummies, because let's face it, guys, life does not come with a fucking manual. And if it did, boy, we'd all be living a dream, right? But there's no manual for this shit. And I lost Toby, and I went, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? I don't know how to unwrap that. You know, my soulmate's dead, and I have no fucking future. And I met this amazing young person who, it might not have been their soulmate, but it was their everything was their father. And wow, you know, to have to unwrap that, to be a young person and lose somebody important in your life. And I went, dude, I get it. I know exactly where you're sitting right now. And their process has been a year. I can't even imagine how I'm going to feel in a year. But to be able to talk to somebody who's going through a monumental experience, and I went, wow, you know, we're a bunch of dummies, aren't we? None of us know how something like this is going to affect our lives. And we became friends based on a traumatic experience for both of us that is so infinitely different, but absolutely the same. And we went, dude, we can talk about this. We can help other people. And we went, let's do a podcast about this. Let's use a platform that both of us love and talk about grieving for dummies. And so we came up with this great idea, and I wanted to share that with you guys here on Lost for Words. And so I'm inviting Pete, and Pete's going to come, and I'm going to introduce you guys, and we're going to talk about grieving for dummies. So welcome, Pete, and welcome to my podcast, and I hope this is a start of a wonderful friendship. How are you doing today?
First of all, thank you for having me here, Lori. It's a great pleasure, and it's been a wonderful idea that we came up with this. Just because you've already said it, I've been going through a lot of grieving myself, and it's been a really tough ride, to be honest. I had my ups and downs, and yeah,
it's not easy, you know, for anybody.
It isn't.
It isn't. It's a subject I think a lot of people kind of go, oh, death, and they go, well, we can't talk about that. It's just too heavy. And we're over here going, well, who am I supposed to talk about it with then? You know?
You have nobody except your friends that really want to talk about it with you.
Right.
But the ones that do, those are rare.
Well, and it's hard. It's hard to find people who are in our case, you and I are in a totally different stage of that grieving process And you go, well, she's not going to understand what it's like because it's a different person, or yours just happened and hers just happened, but mine was a year ago. But then when we started talking, it was like, I'm asking you questions like, how did you handle this? And you're like, well, I did it this way. And I'm like, cool, cool, you know? And then you went, well, just because it's not the same doesn't mean we can't talk about it.
Damn right.
You know?
It all affects us differently, but all the stages are the same. And we will get to those later as well, which will be a wonderful subject.
Well, and I think... go ahead. Absolutely.
Yeah. And, well, today I'm doing good. I've been excited for this project for a while.
I have as well.
I'm finally happy we are doing this.
Me too. Well, like you said, all of us handle the grief process so different. I mean, you've been at this a lot longer than I have. It's coming up on a year now.
Yeah.
But in the beginning of that, I mean, you had friends and you do social media. I mean, how do you think that, you know, at the beginning that you were to handle it? Did you think that a year later, do you think that you handled it as well as you could have expected, or do you think you would have handled it differently? I mean, that's crazy.
I honestly had no idea. When it happened, my whole world fell apart because he was just part of my life the entire time, as my dad, of course, and we had such a great bond in the last years that it was hard not to think about it. And I don't know, it really affected me in a way that I was thinking of not knowing how to handle it in any way, in social media or not. And no matter if there were friends, I just didn't want to talk about it because I didn't know how to express myself. And I lost sight of my inner fire, my inner self with that, what happened. And yeah, it wasn't easy at all. I mean, my dad died because of cancer, and he has battled it for 13 years, starting in 2007, and 14 years. 2007 it started out with a slow breast tumor, and then in the end it spread from the breast into the lungs and then completely all over the body, and also affecting his bones. So there wasn't anything you could do, and in the end he just passed away in his sleep. But I don't know, waking up to the call and being the first one being called by the doctor was devastating, because I had no idea what was going to happen. I just ended the call after it was done and started crying because my entire world fell apart. And a month before, my mom had an epileptic attack plus a stroke, and I had no idea how to cope with that as well. And
so you were kind of fearful on both ends, really, mom and dad.
Yeah.
Oof.
Exactly. And I had no idea what was going to happen next. The only thing that I had in mind was, if my mom would not survive this either, I would not be here, because I had suicidal thoughts. And it got me in a place where I was thinking that nothing was worth it anymore. That no matter what I was doing and the friends I had would not be anything against losing my own parents.
Right.
Because it's nothing in comparison.
Right. And that's where you were sitting, was just that total despair, that piece of, I have nothing left.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can relate to that from a certain perspective. I was kind of feeling that same thing, and I'm wondering if a lot of people do, if they feel that same, that at that initial moment of shock, of I have nothing, I've lost everything.
Yeah.
Because I think I felt that, I might have felt that exact same thing, like, or that initial, this just can't be real.
Yeah. I honestly had no idea on really how to handle anything, because I lost the overview about my entire life, and I was just there, like, helping my mom when she came home, and was just doing my own thing because I couldn't do anything else. I wasn't going to school or anything. I was just at home doing nothing, but sitting around all day, grieving and thinking about what happened. And I don't know, in the first few weeks, I did deny what happened because it's the first stage. So, denial, and that you don't accept that it happened and you want it to change. You really want to undo things because you don't want to be in the situation, and you just want it to be like the old days.
I totally get that. I totally get that. I think I felt that absolutely the first thing too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah. It happened in January this year, and on January 21st, when my father died. Now it's almost a year, and I've been through so much that I don't know, I don't recognize myself as much anymore as I did because of all the change that I've been through.
Right.
It put a lot of character growth to myself, and also general growth in so many ways that I'm not that naive anymore in certain scenarios.
Right. Well, and that's, I guess, part of that process for you, though, is you handling it differently now versus how you handled it when you first were kind of presented with it. And I'm hoping, at least, because it's so new to me, that I think the denial phase, you brought up a really good, important point, being there's 5 stages of grief, and that first initial shock was that denial thing, and what we're hoping to do is unpack all of those stages. Obviously not today, because that would be like 5 hours. We've done that in our brainstorming sessions where we've talked for hours about all of the grief stages and all of that, which is, it gets super involved and exciting, because the light bulb goes off and you go, dude, this is really great stuff. But denial being that first one, anger being the second one, the third one being bargaining, the fourth one being depression, and then the final one, the acceptance piece, which is kind of the ultimate goal of dealing with grief, because they say, that there's no time limit, and that, grief never goes away. You're always grieving for somebody, right? Throughout your life. But
well, I mean, it depends.
Well, on that relationship, too, which is something we were going to talk about today too. But being that, we all handle that process differently, and you being at a specific place in your grieving process, and me working on mine, and those 5 stages and unpacking those, and you're saying, well, I was in that denial phase, and I'm over here going, okay, let's talk about the next phase, which was that anger phase, and always going back to, all of us have those same emotions, and us going, yeah, I was in that denial phase too. Well, I'm so angry right now about everything, and there's got to be a point in your process where you were angry, because right now I'm kind of flip-flopping between all of that anger and depression stuff, but I'm angry about everything, and it's easier for me to deal with being mad at stuff, because it's an acceptable emotion, for people who lost somebody. Yeah. But I'm mad at the world, and I get mad easy, and I'm mad at responsibilities, and I'm mad at God, and I'm mad at. It's easy for me to just be angry, and for everybody to go, oh, well, she's just mad because she just lost her fiance.
Yeah, but that brings you to the second stage now, because denial is gone. Now we are getting into anger, which is very normal in that process.
Sure.
Of going through this, and I don't know, it just has to be accepted. I mean, if people cannot accept it, then
well, they don't really have a
nothing to
choice
do
at
with
this
you.
point, because I'm just pissed off. So
Yeah.
they really have to just deal with me. I'm just an angry.
And if they don't, then well, they can just fuck off.
But keep in mind, I mean, me being angry has
Sometimes, I mean-
it has consequences. If I'm angry to the wrong person, I still have to apologize when I'm an asshole. I mean, I can't just walk all over you and be like, Pete, fuck you, you know, and be an asshole and not expect to be accountable for that. But I am angry. I still feel like this is unfucking fair. You had COVID took my fiance from me, and damn it, I'm mad about that, and I have every right to be mad about it. I don't have a right to treat anybody like an asshole because of it, but I'm still mad. I'm gonna be mad. I just have to figure out how the fuck I'm gonna deal with it. You know what I mean? But you have every right to be angry that cancer took your father. It's not fair. But at the end of the day, I have to go, what the fuck can I do about it? Nothing. But I'm not ready to accept that. I'm still fucking mad. Do you know what I mean? And same with you. You can be mad and be like, well, they should have fucking found a cure for COVID quicker then, motherfuckers. Because if they found okay, but that brings up an interesting question. If they found a cure for cancer tomorrow, wouldn't you be fucking mad?
Yeah.
Why couldn't you have found that cure 10 years ago and cured my father? If they came out with a cure for COVID tomorrow, I'd be pretty mad too. Why couldn't you have fucking cured that shit a month and a half ago and spared my fiance's life? But I can't change it. I'm not ready to be not mad. Mad is okay. Depression is not. So I'm not ready to not be mad. Does that make sense, though?
It does, yeah.
I mean, but it's still an asshole move on my part because I'm still I'm mad.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're going through. I've been in the same situation, of course, since my grieving process has been going on for a longer time.
But are you still mad?
No, I'm not. I'm not, but I would forgive you for everything that you would say, because it just is a grieving process, and I'm very understanding with it.
Sure, but not everybody's you. You're not. No. Not everybody's lost a loved one or understands being mad. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely. I mean,
I'm grateful I have friends that understand that, but
yeah, same, honestly. And I don't know. Yeah, I would be mad if they would have found a cure, like tomorrow for cancer, of course. But
how do you get to the point where you accepted that I can't bring it back? I can't take it's not going away. Is it a time thing? Is it a...
the thing is, it's more or less time, because there's nothing you can do. And only time will change your mind, so to speak. Or what I was hearing was time heals wounds or something like that. It could be, but I'm not entirely sure. I've been through everything, and I'm at the final stage, acceptance. I accept that he died, and I accept the way that I will live on and do whatever it takes to help people go through whatever they are going through, because I've been experiencing this and similar things as well. So that's good, and I know that my dad watches over me and is my guardian angel, so he's always there when I need him.
So when you talk, we've talked about navigating the grief process and those 5 stages and how everybody handles them differently. So, and the coping mechanisms that go with it. So we talked about the positive ones, like, you know, therapy. I go to therapy a lot, and it's been my saving grace. Some people don't have resources that they can do that, but you have friendships. We have support groups. We have some people meditate. They go to church. They have positive outlets that are really good and can help them navigate that. We're hoping to foster and create an environment where we can all come together with friendship for people who don't have a platform or have resources. Not everybody, you're in a different country. I'm in the United States. The United States is notorious for falling very short on mental health and helping people who need it, which is why all the money that I make that people donate to my podcast goes to a mental health facility here in Greensboro in Toby's name, because his therapist, his mental health facility was a sliding fee. He didn't have health insurance. He couldn't afford therapy. Therapy is $180 an hour, okay, here. That's what they charge. That's a lot of money. So if you don't have health insurance, nobody will see you. In his facility, they charged him $5 a session. $5. They didn't make any money off of him. So I knew that I needed to give money back to them. So any donations that were given to me personally for Toby's funeral expenses from private people, from my work, was all given back to that facility. And I'm not telling any of you this because I want you to feel that I'm a better human or I'm trying to gain anything from that. It was the right thing to do, people. Mental health is important. And people need support. And if I can give back to people who don't have a fucking clue who Toby was, don't know who I am, don't give two fucks, but if they're struggling and they need help, they're gonna get it. And if I can give a piece of that back, I'm gonna. And you don't like it, too fucking bad. But if I didn't have my friends, if I didn't have therapy, if I didn't have people to help me through the grieving process of losing my soulmate, I would be one of those people who was in that place where Pete was at one point, who said, I have nothing to live for, and it's not worth surviving. And that's not fair. It's not fair to the memory of Toby. It's not fair to the people that love me. It's not fair to myself. This is a terrible thing for anybody to lose a loved one. For Pete to lose his dad, for me to lose Toby, for anybody who's lost anybody they cared about tragically or from a disease, to not have a resource or a friend or a community to talk to about the things that they need help with. And so we're trying to create a platform where we can all come together and talk about things that are hard. And a lot of people don't have healthy coping mechanisms, and they navigate their grief with self-defeating behavior, self-destructive habits. They drink, they turn to drugs, they do the unfortunate and end their lives because they don't know how to navigate a process that is so painful. And I think you've been there, I've been there, we've all been there in different stages of our lives. Unfortunately, I've got 30 more years experience than you do because you're much younger than I am. But it doesn't make it any less hard for you to handle or less painful to be at that place in your life where you don't want to be here anymore. And that's what's so important, is we all have these same emotions. We just handle them so differently. But you're in the same spot I am, no matter what it was, no matter who you lost, no matter how old you are, no matter what part of the world you're in, because we are on opposite ends of the ocean. But we are sitting in the same spot. You're just a little further on your journey than I am, but we're sitting in the same spot. We feel the same thing. We're hurting just as much, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what do you think about? I talk too much. I know. I'm sorry. But what do you think about that?
Fine.
Tell me what you think.
You're completely right. Well, for me and my coping mechanisms, and this is the only thing that I can talk about because I don't know much about anybody else's experiences and their coping mechanisms. So for me, it most likely was writing, because I write stories myself and put them up on my main YouTube channel, and for people to listen to, and also for myself to get my emotions out and let my creative mind and fantasy like a normal go and just let it flow. And so I have topics in my head that I want to do and that I write down, and I don't always have creative times, but when I do, I just write and write and write, because it's mostly the only way to figure out how to sort my head and my emotions.
Do you find that if your emotions are in line and you're feeling a little more calm and centered, that you're more creative, and you have a tendency to be able to let the creative side come out more if you're not struggling with all of your emotional stuff?
Yes, definitely, but also when emotionally attached by something, or not entirely attached, but sidetracked or whatever, I will write nonetheless, because it helps me to get calm. Because in writing, I can let out all my emotions in a personal manner, and either write stories for myself to enjoy, or I write stories for other people to enjoy when I wanted to.
Right.
But,
well, I suppose I could see that. I guess it's no different than if I'm stressed out, I can throw out a podcast and get all that shit off my chest, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I do that too. It's like screaming.
I haven't really done a podcast at all, and this is my first time. But I've been at live streams, so it's easy to talk with other people as well, and
then
get
the
their
great thing is,
and stuff.
yeah, but the great thing is this isn't a fact finding kind of thing. Nobody's an expert on this subject. It's grieving for dummies, right? So we don't have to be experts on anything.
No,
this is
that's not what. This
is your life experience, so you're pretty much your own expert on this, because we don't have a manual here. Right?
Very true.
Right?
Yes, exactly.
So I mean, your experience makes you the expert, really.
Yeah.
Aren't we kind of all our own grief experts?
We are, and we cannot think of anybody else's, because we are just who we are, and the things we've been through shape us to the humans that we are.
I agree.
And I don't know, if you go down a dark path, it will eventually be a downfall for yourself. But if you enlighten yourself and show that you go to therapy, or that you have supportive friends or groups that you can be a part of, and they accept you for who you are, then talk to them. Do whatever it takes to find a way to help yourself and make yourself feel more valued, appreciated, loved, and also that it helps you mentally and health-wise as well.
Absolutely. We one of the things that we were talking about earlier, and that we were going to talk about today, which we've kind of been like, oh, this is going to be a great subject, was how did you feel about people who would come up and go, dude, I'm sorry that your dad died, or my condolences, or how do you feel about the sentiment? I mean, you don't want to feel ungrateful, because people are truly sorry that you've lost a loved one, but I mean, how does it, I mean, because we've got listeners, or I've got listeners, and you're going to have future listeners, but even people that, when you tell them for me, when I tell people I just lost my fiance to COVID, and then they go, oh, dude, like, what do I say to somebody who just lost a loved one? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? How do you feel about it? And how does that affect your grieving process?
Well, I am grateful for people that say, I'm sorry, my condolences, because I know that it's hard to say something to someone that has lost a loved one, no matter who it was. And most of all, the importance of either a parent or a fiance or husband will be different, but it affects us way more than people we are related to but are not connected with as much.
Right.
And I mean, it would be better if some people would come up to you and say, if you ever want to talk, I'm here for you, and you can talk and vent all you want. I'm just here listening and try to be or to have an ear for you.
Do you think that's more important? Is just that people understand that you really just say, you know, I'm here, I'm listening, rather than offering any kind of sorry or.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yes, absolutely.
It's really because we do understand that most people, unless you've lost anybody, just don't get it. You really don't know how you're gonna feel until you're thrust there, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I had a few friends on Twitter say that either Twitter, Instagram, or Discord, when I told them about it, they said, if you ever wanted to talk, know that my DMs are open anytime, and if you feel like you need to talk, then just go for it and I'll listen. And I was immensely grateful for that, because then I knew that those people will most likely understand that they haven't been through it, but they have the understanding to listen to you and not be judgmental. Well, and just go, well, I'm happy you told me about it. I cannot imagine how you feel like, but I'm always here to listen, and maybe I can give 1 or 2 tips, and that's it.
Do you feel like
also helps enough?
Do you feel like it's important that people would know that you only offer advice if you're asked for it? That's something that that would be a good tip to give people if they're worried about what to say to somebody. If you find out somebody that you're close to or a friend of yours has lost a loved one, is to don't give them a whole bunch of unsolicited advice unless somebody says, how would you handle this, or just listen.
Yeah,
that's a good tip.
Exactly. But I don't know, for me, it always happens that I will listen and then offer my advice, and without really saying it, because I can kind of sense the emotion of people in one way or another.
Right.
And they are most likely accepting of this and say that it helped them. Sometimes I do give my advice, sometimes I don't. But I think it depends on the situation and the people I surround myself with.
Right.
And
I know it's easy for us because we'll have a conversation and I'll ask questions like, hey, how did you, and then you'll give me the advice that I asked for.
Of course,
but when it's other people, yeah. But I think a lot of times for me, it's just people don't really know what to say. Do you say I'm sorry, or do you just say, hey, it's too bad that happened? I mean, how do you say it without sounding like an asshole,
Yeah,
without
exactly.
minimalizing somebody's experience? But I guess it really has a lot to do with how well you know somebody too. And that's hard, especially in social media. You really don't know what your level of comfort is with certain people and how they're going to react to it. And then there's the whole, are they just looking for somebody to feel sorry for them? And it's like, well, that's kind of a dick move, but at the same time, there are people on social media who do those kind of things. So you don't want to be one of them, but at the same time, you have acquaintances and relationships with people on social media. So, there's a fine line of how you present it to the public, and then how you present it, like you and I, where we're in a support group or we're talking about it, and it's a very real thing. Like you and I, it's one of those things where people will be like, you're on a live stream with a bunch of people and you're like, oh, well, she doesn't look like somebody who just lost their fiance, or he doesn't look like somebody who's grieving for his dead father. Well, okay, bitch, I may not look like a grieving widow, but you don't see the 2 a.m. crying with your friends on the phone because you miss somebody. I'm not presenting that to the public because it's none of your fucking business what I'm doing crying in the middle of the night. I don't want sympathy from this. I'm a real human. I have real emotions, but when I'm out in public, I'm a public person and I'm trying to do the right thing to help other people. But I'm not going to sit here and cry and try to make people feel sorry for me, because that's not the point.
No. And I don't know, for me, it's like when I get in this kind of angry mood and it gets too much, I will immediately start crying because I have no other way to express myself.
Right.
And because I have no therapy, and I haven't been to therapy in years, So there's just a mechanism that I've been going through on my own without additional help. And it really helps when I just let my emotions flow the way I want to.
Right.
I don't care what people think, I would just do it. And no matter like attention seeker or not, I'm a genuine real person, I'm honest, and I care a lot of people, or about a lot of people, and want to see them at their best form as well. And if they're down, I'm there to help them.
Right.
Say, my DMs are always open to you, to anybody that has problems or struggles.
Right.
I open myself up for them, and when they really need it, they will come. If not, then my offer has been accepted, but not been like searched for yet.
Right.
And
well,
I'm fine with that.
And at a certain point, these, certain people, myself included, yourself included, I mean, anybody, they have to want to help themselves.
Exactly, and that's...
and then we navigate the process together.
Exactly, and that's a good thing.
Well, and like we talked about before, there's no time limit on that. I mean, lots of people have that grieving process for life, and I know I will, and you will. I mean, that piece of that memory and that love that you have for your father never goes away. You're young. That was a huge impact on your life. Toby, the same thing. I had amazing experience navigating life with him, and now I have to unlearn and relearn and figure out a new path just as you do. And there's no time limit to that until we are no longer on this planet. So now, however long I have left here, I have to redefine my future, and that's scary. It's a scary path to navigate, and I'm unpacking that in therapy about what that means and what the next step is, and and while it's still dark and scary, there's that bright light that goes, okay, well, I could do something not dark and scary with it and try to learn something and make something good and happy out of it too. Because, if your father didn't pass away, you would be doing what you were doing, and that's navigating your path for happiness, and that's what Toby and I would have done. So the difference is that I still have to do that. I just have to do it without him, and that sucks. I'm still angry about it, okay? We'll go back to the 5 stages of grief. I'm still mad about it. I'm still going to be sad about it. I haven't accepted it yet. But it takes time, and there's no time limit for that. So if it takes 5 years, if it takes 10 years, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. And you get to do the same thing. We're just going to kind of all hopefully do it together instead of by ourselves. So I'm hoping that was kind of our goal, to be able to kind of unpack that a little bit, and the ideas that we had about covering each stage of grief and really digging into that denial phase, because I have so much that we could have a great conversation, maybe with some other people, maybe even a live stream where we could all talk and people could come up on panel and share their experience with denial, or people could see our face and how we interact and whatnot, because we've had some great hour-long discussions about, these wonderful things, and they're not wonderful things, they're tragic things, but how denial has affected us and how angry we are about everything, and then we haven't talked about bargaining a lot, a little bit, but about the depression part, we've really unpacked depression, you and I, but the acceptance stage, which I'm not even remotely close to, and talk to other people about where they're sitting, and I have a lot to learn. You still have a lot to learn. That time limit thing. We could go on about time limits, but we have an infinite, I shouldn't say infinite, but we've got time to talk about more grieving for dummies. We can write our own manuals, and be our own experts and go over all of these things that we think about at 2 a.m. when we're over here crying. what the interwebs don't see, though.
No.
But probably should, if you think about it. They should be listening to this. They should be hearing this. They should be thinking about what we're thinking about, instead of, they don't look like somebody who's just lost their dad.
I dislike people like that. Yeah, they have no understanding. whatsoever.
Well,
And
again, if people don't walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, they can only judge the make and model of their shoes. You know?
But still, it should be non-judgmental.
It should.
Towards any situation, because if you are judgmental to someone who is going through something, you're hurting them, and in the end, you will not be accepted anymore.
Right. Well,
one or two mistakes and you're out.
You and I've got a lot more podcasts once we unpack grief, huh? Yeah,
exactly.
Sounds like you and I could have a whole lot more to talk about. You've already heard my podcast. I like to bitch about toxic cesspool world, so you and I got a lot to talk about.
I love that shit. We can do that. Hell yeah.
What else? What else? Unless you have anything else you want to unpack right now, what else can we talk about? Future ideas? Anything going forward about grieving? Anything I didn't cover here that you want to say? Last words? Anything more about our topic today?
No, not really. It's just,
put you on the spot.
The only thing that I would say is, if you see people struggling, come and see if they need help. Offer them support in saying, I'm sorry, but my DMs are open if you need like a shoulder to lean on, or a light in the dark, so to speak, so you're not alone and you don't have to cope with that all by yourself, because I'm not going to judge you, and I don't want to, but I'm here listening to you vent, and if you're done, that's good.
It's always good.
I think that's the only thing that I can say, because other things are just unnecessary to talk about. I would say.
Sometimes, so, right?
Yeah. Sometimes, yes. And especially at that moment, and my mindset right now, I have nothing else to add, but that we might uncover the 5 stages of grief. But we'll see about that. We have that plan for sure.
We certainly do.
And we will get into more details and write a plan for sure for all those 5 stages.
We absolutely
then
will.
We'll see what comes up.
Well, and definitely check out comments. We will drop links in the descriptions. If you guys are interested, comment. Always add what you think. If you have anything, what you think about grieving, what you think about the 5 stages of grieving, where maybe you're at with it. If you're interested in a live stream, I had been talking about in the updates, which is a couple of podcasts back, about maybe doing a Sunday early morning here in America, which would be afternoons in Germany and most of Europe. It would be Sunday afternoon, probably dinner time-ish, so about 6 p.m. In most of Europe, but it'd be about 11:30 a.m. here Eastern Standard Time in the United States. But doing like a live panel, because I have StreamYard and I can do a live panel, a live chat, where we could banter, you and I, to start. But anybody else, I have met some people in the community who have also lost spouses, who've also lost loved ones, even children, who might want a space to talk about where they're at, or just a space to talk about other subjects, that are bothering them. And right now we're covering grieving, but that doesn't mean that doesn't evolve into other subjects that are plaguing people emotionally. Toby and I went to therapy together for couples counseling, and we talked about relationships and communication, and there's all sorts of things we could all unpack as a community that are affecting us in our first world, and how they move on to our second and third world and toxic cesspool world, and how that all affects us, because we're trying to make friends. We're social beings, but the world is evolving and changing too. We're learning to maintain friendships overseas with people, in a virtual world, in a non-physical world, because of COVID, or because of the government, or because of kilometers away. So we'll figure that out. But we're interested to know if people are going to respond to this kind of a platform. But I think it's a worthwhile shot. I think it's worth it for us to try. If for nothing else, we're doing something that nobody else is we're trying to use our pain to help people.
Yep.
So that's my hope, and I'm hoping it's a good thing for everyone. So check the descriptions, check the links, check the comments. We'll be posting and we'll be talking about it. Find us on social media. Don't find me on Facebook, because Facebook is my first world and that's my happy place. So if you're allowed there, you're one of the good people. You're one of the special people. Otherwise, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Losfer, and we will let you know where you can find Pete. He will be around. He also has some other social media stuff for his creative side, which is writing. I'm not doing music, so you aren't going to be able to find me, but check those links. Again, I want to thank you for being here and talking to me today.
Yeah. It was a pleasure.
It always is.
Being here.
And as always, you guys, wash your hands. Wash your motherfucking hands. Be good humans. And we will see you guys very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.